Hi, Marilyn. We've known each other for a long time. We go way back. I went to school with your brother, Nathan. And you were 4 years older, but you were always around. I think I was 16 when I came here the first time in Willedek. So you were like an early 20-year-old. I think you were studying at the University of Antwerp, UFCA, back then.
Yes, I was.
But first, of course, I need to introduce you. What do you do? You are actually you could call the producer, but actually a hospitality manager for international musicians. Is that correct?
Very good. In Tel Aviv.
In Tel Aviv, yes, that's your main hangout. That's where you reside,
Yes.
with husband and 3 children.
Yes, indeed.
So, but you back in the early 2000s, you were studying in Antwerp. You studied philosophy, right?
I went into the Polen Sok,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like communications. And the first 2 years in the bachelor, I found it very shallow. I took a little bit of everything. And then when I got to my master's degree, I wanted to write about music, obviously. And my promoter, my professor, my Walter Wijns,
Walter Wendt.
Kleurtje dag. He was really the ultimate professor. He told me, if you want to write about music, these are the options. And I dove into the beautiful world of philosophy and music philosophy. And so I ended up, finishing my degree. I had a master's with honors, but I never studied for a job.
Yeah.
It was just very enriching, and academically speaking, it was very interesting. But I knew what I was going to do with my life as a job. But it was interesting those years, even though I hated college life. I hated I wasn't into, I didn't have friends. I wasn't into the student life at all. UFCA, and then it was UA in Wilrijk.
Yeah, I think it changed in 2003. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2000 to 2004 I finished. I graduated.
I remember one time I came over to, I don't know, ask something of Nathan. I don't know, we were doing something. I think I was building his website at the time when I was 16.
Which one?
The very first.
Okay.
No, but I remember you were studying at the time, and I remember you came downstairs, and the first thing you said was, "I didn't study at all today. I was I was busy with
Playing Snake in
no,
my
no,
Nokia phone?
organizing my photos in albums. That's what."
Yeah. I think there's two kinds of people when you're in college.
Yeah.
Those who are very organized. And I'm always, even with any deadline, last minute. And I was always preparing myself for the worst. And also when you study in Belgium, you need to understand the way to study. And in my first year, I got a big hit. I had very bad scores because I didn't understand the concept of literally learning 300 pages by heart.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a subject that doesn't really interest you, maybe it was statistics or economics that I didn't study.
Oh yeah, statistics.
And
Horrible.
I don't know how I pulled through, but if the podcast is called Clever Girl, then I must be a clever girl.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I of course we both speak Dutch, but because you have quite the international audience, that's why we opted for English.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be a bit weird because, of course, normally we speak Dutch with each other.
Yes, but your English is very good. It's very natural.
No. Important. You are also a podcaster. Tell me about your podcast.
So I actually started doing radio, and it wasn't something that was unplanned. As an hospitality expert, I work with a lot of artists in Israel, which means I take care of them like mommy. I pick them
Mommy
up at
Marilyn.
the airport. I mean, now I do it less. I have a team working for me, but hospitality services for me, it's like work permits, visa, logistics, hotels, schedule, catering, food, backstage, whatever the artist needs. And it was after, I can say his name, I don't think he's going to listen, Axl Rose.
Oh, cool.
Guns N' Roses were such an annoying band, and they made such a bad name for themselves that I was like, these people are ruining my joy of listening to music. And so I started this radio show because I wanted to, put myself in a music booth and listen to music without having to know the person behind it. So one of the red threads throughout my shows, besides sharing the music I love, and it's called Unwind Rewind because it's really my, it's the pond I swim in and fish in. It's singer-songwriters, a lot of nostalgia, very mellow. It's perfect to unwind during the weekend, And so at first it was therapy for me to listen to music again. And I keep saying it all the time. We are not supposed to meet our idols unless It's Leonard Cohen. He's the exception to the rule, for real. But yeah, Axl Rose was.
Was this recent? Because I heard that Axl Rose mellowed down in more recent years. Because he got older, now he starts shows on time, which he never did in the 80s and in the 90s.
Well, I can tell you a lot of anecdotes about him because I did 3 times we had Guns N' Roses in Israel.
Yeah.
I had him in 2011, 2017, and last summer, a year ago.
And he was still.
He got older. He sings just as, crazy. He did a lot of Botox or whatever, but they were just as annoying. But yes,
Damn.
he doesn't come late. But, the ego between him and Slash, and it's just this feeling of what bothers me is the hypocrisy of these artists. Very often I get bands that do drugs all night in the club, but as they come to the backstage, everything has to be organic. It's tough for me, especially if Leonard Cohen is my reference.
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about Cohen in a minute, of course. I just want to pick up what you said. Never meet your heroes. That's, of course, an adagium that many people use and say. You grew up in a household with a lot of heroes, between brackets. Your dad was a concert promoter. So you did meet some of your heroes.
Oh, I was a groupie.
That has a negative connotation, groupie.
I went through it. I think when you met me,
Yeah.
and I think we all go through that phase.
You were
at
20,
some point.
21, yeah.
We think that, we're in a show and this guy is singing and we think it's for us. But I learned through my job and through becoming more mature that what we see on stage is nothing at all. And why do I want you to not meet your idols? Because this fantasy and this illusion is important to maintain. And, we can talk about Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen the documentary and I still think he's innocent, but it proves that we don't need to know them behind the scenes. We need to praise them for their music. And, I'm looking around, I have a David Bowie photo here.
Yeah.
It's like these people are on stage, what they mean to us. Their music means what it means to us. And we don't need to be buddies with them because then it ruins the myth. And it's fine like that. But of course, I went through, all these stages before I got to that conclusion.
Just because this is a positive podcast always. Apart from Leonard Cohen, again, which we'll get to in a minute, who was friendly? Who did you like?
Actually, in general, the rule is for me, the older the band, the better they are because they're experienced, because they're they have a good team around them. And it's very often also everything comes from above. If the artist is happy and he's a good boss, then it cycles down to everybody, to the crew, to the technical team, and you just feel it. So if there's a bad vibe because in the band there's ego, like with Metallica or Guns N' Roses, when there's a band like that. But I've met many artists that were very friendly, and not only the old guys like the Paul Simons of this world. Even last year, I had One Republic. I didn't even know their music. They were super nice.
That's nice.
So if you say keep it positive, I'll keep it positive.
No. Of course, yeah. I've done some interviews in the past, and yeah, it's always a little disheartening if you meet someone and you notice that he's not the kindest person in the world, because of course you look up to him, you appreciate the music, you like the band, but yeah, sometimes it just happens that they're not.
I think for me it's a question of humility. Like when Leonard Cohen was 80 years old, okay, he was a Buddhist, so he wasn't
He was a
attached
monk,
to
actually.
anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like if he can stay humble, then all these pop stars that I had later, I was like, just stay with your feet on the ground. And also for themselves, these people are, it's also very sad. These people are so lonely. These people are surrounded by yes men, and kids dream of being famous later. For me, being famous is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So Axl Rose, especially, if we keep it like, I don't know why we.
That's okay. He won't listen to Clever
He
Girls.
was how old was he when he became famous? He was a
Let's
kid.
see. 80. Wait. They broke through in 87, but yeah.
He was barely 20.
Yeah, 20,
And he
24,
was a kid from
20.
the street. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in showbiz his whole life. This is what he knows. But it's very tough. And also, as for us, as people we work with, we need to be professional, but there are boundaries. So it's all a matter of respect
Of course.
and good vibes. But And also, Israel is a special country, so every show there is different. It's not like in Belgium where all the artists come all the time, anyways, and everything is kind of for granted. In Israel, every show is a crazy roller
An
coaster,
event. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. So yeah, let's talk about Leonard Cohen because of course I'm a fan too, aren't we all? Yeah, of course he passed away in 2016, but I think you worked with him close to 10 years, something
No,
like
it
that.
started in Israel
Yeah,
when he played at the stadium in 2009.
2009. Okay.
And I just moved there. In 2007, I moved there, and through the people I knew here, there were a lot of shows coming. It was just starting because there was a time, Intifada and stuff, it wasn't happening. And it started with Paul McCartney, and then when they announced Leonard Cohen, I was like, who's that? I got to get there. And it was a very big show in the stadium, and there were 50,000 people, and he wanted to donate the money to victims of terror from both sides, which is already complicated logistically. And then he found out that the promoter had a sponsor. I mean, very tense show. And like in the stories, I happened to be at the right place at the right time. There was a big crisis, and everybody was screaming and making hands gestures. And I just solved the problem. And they were like, "Oh, you're coming with us." And I was like, "Come on." And I realized that, you grew up in show business doesn't mean you know what being on tour is
No,
like.
no, no.
And so 9 months later, they called me and they said, "Okay, you're coming with us as a production assistant, whatever that means." And I toured with them for 6 months, and it was the most amazing experience, but I was miserable. It was bad timing. I just met the father of my kids. I wanted to be home and have kids. So I didn't enjoy it fully, but it was an amazing experience. And I think up until now, it's my biggest professional achievement that I can say Leonard Cohen chose me to travel around the world and
Yeah,
work with him.
yeah.
And he was so nice. We had the best conversation. He kept in touch with me until the last moments of his life. So I didn't realize it then because I was miserable, but it was an incredible experience of life. And not necessarily the touring life, because touring life is not for everybody. It's circus life. It wasn't for me. So I'm very happy when I do shows in Israel that I can put the people in the hotel and pick them up at the airport and take good care of them. But working with Leonard Cohen was really something. He was really, really like he was really the mensch you would see on stage.
Yeah.
His kindness and his humility. He was really like that. But again, I met him when he was towards 80. He wasn't like that in his 30s when
No,
he was
no.
all.
I heard he was quite the lady killer in his early
With
years.
in my days, there was nothing like that. There was no sex and drugs and rock and roll at all.
I think I have to think about my grandfather, who's still alive, by the way. He's a massive Leonard Cohen fan. I'm thinking, was that the first time that I heard about Leonard Cohen? I'm not sure, but I do remember, and that's a really weird story. When we were your brother and I and Nathan. When we were in the Steiner school, the year after Nathan left, we went to Vienna. There was a sort of an exchange program. So the kids from Vienna came to Belgium for a week, and then I think in the spring we went to Vienna. And I remember I was staying at home in a household, and the mom was a massive Leonard Cohen fan. But the weird thing was she didn't speak a word of English, so it was all German, well Austrian, Austrian German. But through the magic of Leonard Cohen, that was the English she knew. So just his lyrics she could quote by heart, but she couldn't talk to me because she only spoke German.
Crazy.
A really weird thing, and that was the first time I thought, wow, the power of music is really strong. Because and at the time I was 17, 18. I didn't know Leonard Cohen. I knew the name, but I didn't know any of the songs. I didn't know Marianne. I didn't know Hallelujah, whatever. But I always remembered it as a sort of a weird thing that you could not speak a language and still be a massive fan of someone just because the music is so special, or
I would even say that even if you knew English, you would still not understand what he was singing about.
probably because it's so
Even
cryptic
his
at times.
poetry,
Yeah.
I tried. I I don't understand. We were making bets between us because he never really explained
He
what the
did?
songs were
Yeah.
about. I mean, we knew, let's say we knew that in um, Sincerely Alcone. Suzanne. No. Yeah, Suzanne.
Yeah, Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Yeah.
It's about, he tells the story of a woman that cheats, but actually he's the one that stole the woman. So there's a few things we do know that are publicly announced, but he never really revealed. He changed the lyrics for Hallelujah. He worked on it for years. So yeah, maybe you don't need to speak English to understand and just
No, it's
feel the power of the poetry.
I wish I could have interviewed him once because I always wanted to ask him because he says in Hallelujah, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. I always wanted to know what was the secret chord?
I think I know what he would answer.
Tell me.
It's like the question he was asked once on Israeli television because he wasn't really doing interviews. That asked him about writing a hit song, and so he answers to the guy who asks him like, "What's the secret of writing a hit song?" He says, "If I knew, I would go there more often." So maybe the secret chord would be
Was
like,
the
if
hits,
I
yeah,
knew what
yeah.
it was, I would have played it much more.
Yeah, sure.
And he had this humor, this typically, the Jewish humor,
Dry, yeah.
the exactly this typical
The Larry David humor.
Larry
Yeah.
David, yes.
Yeah, I love it. The
Which
the
was
dry-
also a special bond we had on the tour. We were like 4 or 5 Jews. We had traditions in every city, and it was Shabbat. I would buy bread.
Yeah.
He was very Jewish in his lifestyle, not in his religious, but he knew a lot.
Yeah, because he was a Buddhist at the end of his life, so he wasn't
Yeah.
practicing Jew anymore.
No, but he was very into mysticism. He was looking up Kabbalah a lot. He was very, he was very Jewish from home. And, his last album he recorded with the
Yeah.
Montreal choir in the synagogue. So he was very connected to his Jewish roots in a deeper way.
More profound way. Yeah.
Very.
Do you know what did he like the Jeff Buckley cover? Did he ever talk about that?
I think he spoke. First of all, I cannot hear Hallelujah covers
You don't like
anymore.
it?
I cannot handle them.
I like the Rufus Wainwright version.
If already, I would say it's my favorite
Yeah.
because I love Rufus.
John Cale has a nice one as well, but
Yeah, but they used to talk about the Katie Lang cover.
I've never heard that one.
I just can't hear the covers anymore. I can't. You know how many people send me covers? I even had people stalking me at the time. Like, oh, I made a Hallelujah version. Can you give it to him? Yeah,
Why does
sure.
the world need another Hallelujah cover?
No, I mean I've just done a podcast about it because it was Jewish Carnival Purim, and so I did songs in disguise.
Oh yeah.
And I said, as an artist, to cover such a song, you must be so full of yourself, to think that you can do better.
Better, yeah.
And so I appreciate covers when for me, the ultimate cover man was Joe Cocker. He can take the song, give credit due, but also make it his own with his voice without changing anything.
True.
Or Aretha Franklin doing Bridge Over Troubled Water. But in general, a cover,
I always like that. That's one of my favorite things to think about. Which covers are better than the original? And it's a very short list.
yes.
For example,
And there's no right or wrong because
no, it's opinion.
nothing compares to
of
you.
Of course.
Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah.
It's love or hate.
Of
You
course,
hate it or
of
you
course,
love
of
it.
course. And Prince didn't apparently. Apparently, he didn't like it.
I didn't like it either.
But no, it's all subjective, of course. But I really like to think about which covers. For example, for me, we just talked about it with your brother, the Belgian band Blue Blood. Hold the Line by Toto. I think Blue Blood does it better than Toto.
Really?
But that's just my opinion. I know that some listeners will not agree. Perhaps you don't agree.
No, I'll give it. It's always. I'm always for the real deal. I'm always for the authentic one, for whoever did it first. Especially Toto, who's a band, who was very sophisticated in his sound.
Of course.
But I'm also a Blue Blood fan, so I don't know.
There's just something about the way
It's tight.
Luke sang it. It had more urgency, more potency. When Toto sings, it's more like the typical '80s production. The snare, the drums. It's very '80s.
I know what you mean. He gave
Hold
it
the
a
line.
new,
And when Blue Blood is like, hold the line, the power in his voice is like that's what I dig about. But of course, it's subjective. We don't have to agree. But Joe Cocker, great example. I think his "With a Little Help from My Friends" is better than the Beatles version.
Exactly.
But
and it's always Beatles songs in the end. So many Beatles songs, if you think about it.
Yeah, of course, the defining band for his generation. The man played Woodstock. I mean, how cool was that? He was so young. He was like
I know. I was a big
20,
Woodstock fan.
Yeah. Did you know? You know the cameraman for Woodstock?
No.
Martin Scorsese was
What?
yeah, that was one of his first gigs.
No way.
So yeah, it was.
I've seen every footage about it. I've seen
It's
all the
Scorsese
documentaries.
behind the camera.
Really?
He wasn't a director. It was,
Marty.
that was prior to his first movie, if I'm not mistaken, is Mean Streets from 73, and Woodstock is 69. So
Yeah.
that's 4 years prior to. Yeah, it was just a work for hire. So
Good practice. I'm not into movies. I stopped watching movies
Really?
years ago. I'm only into TV shows.
when did you stop watching
When
movies?
I started having kids.
But now your kids watch TV shows or movies. Or...
They watch the classics first of all.
Okay.
You can question them about Home Alone,
Ah.
Ghostbusters,
Ah.
Addams Family. Because I'm sorry, but
Parenting
no
done
woke
right.
for me. Don't give me all this new Disney shit. I'm sorry. Just give me the real deal, the real Cinderella. They love all of that, and all. The only ones we like of today, because movies these days for kids, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's like a big technology show off. Like we don't need all the lights and all the sound and all the movement. The only ones we like are the Minions
Yes.
and Sing and The Secret Life of Pets.
Okay.
That's all we like.
Yeah,
And
I
all the
haven't-
rest, we need the classic. But so for me, at night, after everybody falls asleep, never, I don't want to see my husband. I don't want to see anybody. I need to go into my TV show
Yeah.
and like binge, even if it's 5 minutes.
And
of
what
my
is it? What do you watch?
TV shows,
Just
series.
everything.
I just need whatever's there. But I don't watch movies anymore.
Okay.
At all.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my wife is also much more into television. So whenever I watch, it's with her. I think we just finished Dope Sick. Have you seen it?
I started it.
With Michael Keaton, very very good actor. But I'm more of a movie guy. I'm still a movie.
You're
but
still a movie guy?
Yeah,
Do
but
you go to the cinema?
I try to, but not as often as I used to. But it's still like, let's say, 10 times per year.
I mean, I know my classics, yeah. But I feel like, I don't know, are there any good movies out in the last 20 years besides Quentin Tarantino?
Yes. Last 20, The Social Network was very good.
It's a long time ago.
No, it's not 20 years. 2010, so that's 14
I
years
saw
ago.
it when I was on tour with Leonard.
14 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Australia.
Um,
That was a good one.
yeah, I
It's
loved
funny
it.
you remember it.
Oh, it's great. It's one of my favorites. I think it's the most recent entry in my top 40 of all time. Like a recent, because of course the top 40 is always whatever you saw in your childhood. It's to me, it's also Home Alone, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future,
Yeah.
The Goonies.
It's the high fidelity, top 5 of everything.
High Fidelity. That's a
That
good
was also
example.
a good one.
I've only seen it once. It's a good movie, but it didn't. It's a really good movie, but I've never seen it again. So it didn't become a
I know
classic
what you
in my
mean.
book. But it's a good movie. High Fidelity. They've also made a TV show with
I've seen it with
Zoe
Zoe
Kravitz,
Kravitz.
but I haven't seen it. She's a great
I've
actress.
seen all the TV shows. If you have a good one to recommend, because sometimes it's like terrible.
I have no idea.
I speak to my friends on the phone. I'm like, how's life? How's the kid? How's work? And then say, let's talk about what really matters. What are you
Television.
watching? And if they don't have good tips for me, or if they give me something that I didn't like, wow.
So what are you watching right now? Like yesterday?
Monk.
Monk. Okay.
Have you seen Monk?
I've never seen it. Tony Shalhoub, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, never seen it.
It's old. I didn't know him. And he plays this detective,
Yes.
the defective detective
Okay.
that has OCD.
Yes.
But it's perfect. But I'm just so tired I fall asleep. But it's good because then I can watch
It's like
it
one
over.
episode and then you fall asleep.
And also what I loved was Beef. Have you seen Beef?
It's on my to watch list.
Beef and White Lotus.
White Lotus. I did see. Oh, I loved it. Yes.
These kind of things, when it's original, when it's special. And movies, I see all the musical stuff though, like documentaries.
I loved West Side Story. Spielberg's West Side Story. I loved it. Have you seen it? The new one.
There's a new one?
Yeah.
See, I'm so
From
out.
2021. Yeah.
What?
Spielberg made his first musical.
But it's not woke or something like that.
I don't. Let me think. I don't want to. I don't.
No,
wanna
but like the woke thing of princesses now are transgender.
Oh no! It's
bald and-
it's relatively traditional. It's because of course it's the famous Robert Wise
Yeah.
movie West Side Story and the musical. No, he made a new version. He made an update. The cool thing is that the original Maria, Rita Moreno, is now. Sorry, that's not Maria. That was Natalie Wood. The original. I forgot her. I forgot the character's name. Sorry, the Latina, the Puerto Rican. She's now the grandma. So she plays another part, but it's still her. It's still the same
That's
actress,
cool.
which is at 90 plus, and she's really good. She's still really good. No, but it's recommended if you like
we
your
saw
musicals.
Barbie.
Barbie. Did you like Barbie?
I love it.
I've
I don't know if guys can like it.
yeah, I saw it and I
Mojo
liked.
Dojo Casa House.
No, I liked it, but I wasn't enamored as the rest of the world. It was just a good movie, but not like the greatest movie.
Don't you miss the authenticity and the originality? You know, Home Alone, it's so
Yeah.
stupid, but everybody always remembers it.
Of course.
Like, how come these days people don't have the creative? And when I see Barbie, I'm like, wow, somebody thought out of the box.
Yeah.
It looks different. Like, as soon as there's a smart DOP or somebody with a vision, I'm excited because in the end, there's too much of everything the same. And even if we take it, our inspiration from the classic and we do remakes, fine. It's like covers, actually. Maybe we can say the same thing.
Yeah, remakes,
West
covers,
Side
it's the same
Story.
thing. Yeah.
But that's what I miss today, you know? Creativity, originality, and authenticity, especially in music.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But still, I'm curious about your opinion. So, if you ever have the time, give the new West Side Story
I will.
because, of course, you like Spielberg. Why not?
course,
He's one of the
course,
greatest.
Of course.
He, by the way, he also has an amazing, a newer movie even from last year. It's called The Fablemans.
I know.
You didn't see it?
No, shame on me.
It's sort of like a love letter to his family, to his craft, actually, to the craft of movie making.
I know. That's the thing. I know of it, and I don't.
You don't have the time.
Time is just an excuse.
No, yeah, but 3 children, 3 kids. Let's talk about your kids. So why
Oh,
not?
my kids are amazing.
Nelly, Noah, and Raphael.
Yeah.
2 girls and a boy.
Yes.
And Nelly is 10.
Almost.
Noah is 8.
Almost.
And Raphael is 4.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Good.
So of course because when we met each other, as we said in the beginning, you were like 20, 21. You had
Stupid groupie.
No. It's not stupid. It's just when we were young.
Really.
I remember your 21st birthday party, by the way. It was on a boat in Antwerp.
Yes, on the boat, exactly.
The boat. I don't know what the name was. It's just the
It's
boat.
what, the Flandria?
The Flandria. Yeah, the party boat. And I remember that was like, because of course, when you're 17 or 16, that's like a big deal.
To go to the party of the big sister.
No,
of the-
no, that was cool. I was very nice that you invited me. I think Nathan could like invite 5 friends, and I was allowed to go. No, but I remember that Kenneth Felt was there, the guy from Disney on Ice, who worked with
Really?
your father. And I was like the biggest Disney on Ice fan when I was a kid. When I was growing up, when I was 10 or 9 years old, I saw Aladdin, I saw Beauty and the Beast on Ice,
Yeah.
and he was there because he worked with your father from, I don't know, Make It Happen back in the day. And to me, it was like nobody knew him, but to me, that was the biggest star of the evening.
I
Like
don't
Kenneth
even
Felt was
remember
there.
that.
Yeah.
And I grew up on Disney. Like, I still have merch if you
Yeah,
want.
me too. I have like the souvenir program of Beauty and the Beast. Came with like an ugly plastic flower, a plastic
I
rose.
have everything. I don't know where I'm going to put it on.
Yeah, you
I'll
should
keep some.
You should start your own Ambach museum
Oh, yeah.
with your dad's memorabilia and
With
your,
a full Disney department.
yeah, you should. So where were I going? Yeah, so I remember your party. You were 21, but there was a story I want to tell about.
My
Yeah, so
kids.
you were young, your kid. 21, you had some. I remember you had some boyfriends. We all did. But then, 2006, 2007, you met your current. Well,
No,
no.
I left first.
Okay.
I was fed up with Belgium.
Mhm.
I was just
Why?
fed up.
What happened?
After I graduated from college, I was working with my dad at Live Nation, and I realized that I knew the father of my children was not in Belgium, and I felt I always felt a bit detached
Yeah.
of the Flemish life. You know, I also grew up a bit in a different, Jewish community, but like my friends were leaving. I didn't feel like I was belonging here. The weather really depressed me. The people were too gray, and I had a dream to go to the States.
Yeah.
But my SATs weren't good enough. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And then Israel was an option because I used to go there all the time.
And you knew the language.
I knew the language, and my friends were there. And that winter of 2006, I was just like, fuck it. I'll quit. I didn't have a job there. Nobody wanted to give me a job before I would move there. But I was like, I'll just go and figure it out. And so I just went, and I was like, if I find a job, I'll stay. And so the first year there were no shows. I worked with a music supervisor. So we did music for commercials and film. That was fun. And then the show started, and I met my husband, not husband, but like same guy,
Boyfriend, yeah.
in 2010,
Okay.
1 month before I went with Leonard Cohen, which is why it was so
Yeah,
hard for me.
yeah, didn't want
Just
to
on my 30th birthday. And it was really like that. Like I moved to Israel. not really knowing that it was going to be permanent, but just knowing that I didn't feel like my future was here, that my kids' future was here. And I ended up finding everything I was looking for there in Tel Aviv.
It's funny, just it a flash in my head when you talk about commercials. The only thing, the first thing I think of is, do you remember back in the 90s, MTV was the Hebrew MTV. We didn't have Dutch or Belgian
You had
MTV.
Eden
That's
Arel.
Chadash by Burger King. I don't know what.
That's true.
Do you remember? It was like
Yes.
the most enthusiastic guy promoting hamburgers. It was like-
It was amazing. You had MTV News and
Yeah.
Ray Cokes and this beautiful Israeli
Yeah.
model.
and even
then
Marcel van Tilt
Marcel van Til was there. Yeah,
did
yeah,
the
yeah.
European MTV. Yeah.
My kids don't even know what MTV is.
But that's their own. They cause their own. How do you say undoing or downfall? Because what happened? The music television, and they stopped doing clips. It was all crappy reality television.
I know.
They caused it themselves. It should have stayed the music. I loved coming home after school and watching like 10 clips of my favorite
To
artists.
watch clips, of course.
All night MTV. I remember, I can vividly remember like being 13 years old and being forced to go to a my parents' friend's party. I didn't know those people, and they just said, "Well, they have MTV. Okay, I'll come," because I had a television. That was great, all night long MTV. But yeah, they did it themselves. Why did they change it? It should have stayed. It should have remained the music television. But
We had good times on
Good
in our
times.
growing up on music.
but so there was a point I wanted to make. You, like your brother, when you were in Belgium, you went to Jewish school, right? Hebrew school.
It was public school because
Yeah.
it was all in Flemish, but we had an extra program
Okay.
of 2 hours a day of Hebrew.
Okay, because correct me if I'm wrong. Your dad doesn't speak Hebrew. Well, he does,
No,
but
my
not a lot.
parents don't
Not a
know
lot.
word. Nothing.
Your mom is quite good because your mom is a
She
reformed
learned
Jew.
because she converted.
Yeah. Sorry, reformed, converted Jew.
Converted and not reformed.
Sorry. Converted. Wrong
The
word.
opposite.
Yeah.
Antwerp is very conservative
Yes.
community, so you can't get away with reform. And then we couldn't have gone to the Jewish school if my mother didn't do
Because
it.
your mom was a Christian by birth, or
She comes from a very Christian family. She wasn't a fan of her very Christian upbringing. She went to the school with the nuns. She had her own trauma, but she really did it for us
Yeah,
because
that's
she
very
knew that in
nice.
Antwerp it was a very conservative community. And thanks to her, we weren't bastard childs, really. And so in theory, it doesn't matter, but in this community, it really helped us. And so we got all the Hebrew and we got it in school. And then we also had the youth movement that gave us a lot of connection to Israel. But again, mostly theoretical. It's not, the love for Israel wasn't really, based on Zionism in theory. It was just from going there and getting to know the culture. And there were a lot of things I always felt very attracted to. And it's weird because in Israel, for them, I'm the Belgian. So I became more of a Belgian.
you're
than
still the Belgian right now, even today?
Yeah, I'll always be.
That's weird.
But I did learn in Israel that your identity, like I always felt here, you had to have a very clear identity. What am I? Black or white? You have to be black or white. You have to fit in. And in Tel Aviv, I realized that you could be a little bit of gray and a little bit of dark gray, and it doesn't really matter. You are what you are with all these ambiguities and all these paradoxical things inside of you, and you are you, and it's fine, and you feel at home, which I never had here. So
Did your dad, when he met your mom, did he ever have any problem that he didn't choose a Jewish girl?
of course,
Was he ever?
but on both sides it's a problem. Like for them, for my mother's family, it was like, oh, you're dating a Jew, and for him it was like, oh, you're dating a shiksa. Like
What? Sorry, what's the word?
shiksa is the word of what's his name, the Jewish comedian Jackie Mason.
Okay, Jackie Mason. Yeah,
He had a lot
the
of
dad of
jokes
Krusty
about
the Clown.
shiksas.
Yeah.
Because in the States,
Yeah.
the whole Jewish culture is much more embedded in society. If you watch a movie, you will see Jewish holidays. In Belgium, the Jews are a mystery. I was hoping through this, I don't know if you saw this kind of reality last year, Shalom Alamal.
I haven't, but of course I heard about it. My parents loved it.
So
Yeah.
Shalom Alamal was finally a way to see the inside of a Jewish community because we were not the Orthodox, but we are just one big unknown. Like people don't know us, and it's bad. And so in the States, being Jewish was much more accepted. So when Jackie Mason makes jokes, it's easier to understand. So yeah, the shiksa is the bad word for somebody who's not Jewish.
Yeah.
And so as a good Jew, you don't want to bring home a shiksa wife, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it always. I think it's quite funny that in American movies there's always when there's a Jewish character, there's a lot of Yiddish words they use, and it's funny. There are a lot of words that we use as well in Dutch.
In
Yeah,
Dutch
like
more than
the
Flemish.
Ramsch, for example, at the second-hand bookstore. Um, I can't think of another example, but there's a lot of influences because, of course, Yiddish has some German roots because it's a
No, and also I think because of the Jewish people in Amsterdam, I think.
yeah
Mazel.
muzzle,
Ik
of
heb
course.
Mazel. Like Dutch people, more than Belgian people,
Yeah.
understand these words. I don't think they even know it's from Yiddish, but yeah, there's a very strong connection.
Yeah, of course, Mazel we know, and Ramsch, as I said there, like the Slechte, the bookstore, it's called the Ramsch. There's also like what's the word like verkakte?
Verkakt?
Yeah,
Like
that's
verkakt,
like
yeah.
shitty or
It can be a little bit of everything.
yeah, it's like a swear word. but-
Geradbrokt. That's what they say in Antwerp, no? Ik zeg geradbrokt.
Geradbrokt.
And
I
verkakt.
have no idea how it translated in English. Like
Verkakt. Verkakt.
yeah, but in English. Verkakt.
You should understand.
But there was still a point I want to make because you went to Hebrew school, and that reminded me of we've all seen one of my favorite movies, The Goonies. Remember the character of Chunk?
Confession, I've never seen the
No, but
Never.
because it's one of your
I
brother's
had a
favorite movies.
poster on the door.
You've never seen it?
I've never seen it.
Damn. Okay,
Missed
so now my
out.
whole story.
Next
is gonna-
question.
No, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna still.
Clever girl hasn't seen the movie. The
No, but
Goonies.
there's a character, Chunk, played by Jeff B. Cohen, who's a Jewish actor. Character is also Jewish. Of course, it's Hollywood. It's a kids movie, so it's like very thick laid on. It's like he's always talking about, oh, we've got all Hanukkah decorations in our house. It's like Jewish is like the only identity he has, and eating because he's a fat kid. He wears Hawaiian shirts, so he's eating and he's Jewish.
Jews and food, it's something.
But the cool thing is there's 16 years later they released the first DVD of the movie. They reunited the cast and they all came together. The 7 kids and the director came back together to record an audio commentary. One of the funniest things you'll ever hear. If you love the movie, it's like the best thing ever. A reunion of the 7 kids. And during the commentary, he says, he speaks a little Hebrew in the movie as well. And of course, the other guys, the 6 other actors, they're not Jewish, so they're laughing with him. They're laughing at him. And he says, come on, guys, don't laugh. 5 years of Hebrew school put to good use on a movie. And then he says, but you have to help me because I don't know Hebrew. He says, Baruch atah Adonai. Does that mean anything at all?
It's the beginning of almost every prayer.
Okay, great. So
Bless though.
I'm happy that
God.
you know what I mean. So there's a scene where I'm not going to do any spoilers, but check it out with your kids. It's a great kids movie. It holds up. He gets confronted by the bad guys, and of course the first thing he says is Baruch atah Adonai. But the other actors, like Josh Brolin, they're laughing. I was like, "Whoa, la, la, la." And he says, "Come on, guys, 5 years of Hebrew school put to good use on film."
I get it. It's the most famous prayer.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. In American movies, the Jewish thing
Yeah,
is
it's
in
just
there all
there.
the time.
Yeah.
You know, they have Christmas, we have Hanukkah, you had the Adam Sandler song,
Oh yeah.
you had Christmaka. I mean, here in Belgium, it was always so like, oh, you're Jewish? Oh, you're weird. What does that mean? Money? You know. I really have trauma, I think, from my childhood.
Oh, yeah.
I think once they sent me to a sports camp and they all went to the catechese, whatever that is.
Yeah. How would
And,
you
and
translate
everybody's
it?
like,
Yeah.
oh, why you're not coming? I had to say, ik ben Joods. And it was so like,
Humiliating. Yeah.
yeah, embarrassing. I don't think I realized it. And in Tel Aviv, and it's not about being Jewish in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is like New York. It's filled with people from around the world. You can just be who you are and nobody gives a shit and nobody needs you to explain why yes, why no. And this was the relief I needed, you know, for being
Yeah.
who you are with a bit of everything mixed, you know.
I've also heard, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that Tel Aviv is quite European in its atmosphere as well because it's so.
It's a mixture of a lot of places. It has a lot of Barcelona, I would say.
Ah, yeah.
It is Mediterranean in the sense of, you know, it's by the Mediterranean, the food we eat, it's like Greece. But it is the Middle East, and there's also a lot of American influence, so it's interesting. You can compare it to Miami, New York on the beach, Barcelona is the things I hear, Brazil, you know.
Oh, great. Cosmopolitan.
Yes.
Let's go back to your studies. You said you studied music philosophy, right?
Yeah, I ended up doing that.
You ended up doing it, but I have no idea what to think or what to expect when I hear the term music philosophy. So can you?
It starts by the general term of philosophy, and then you have culture philosophy, and then you had a few schools, and one of them was the Frankfurt Schule,
Yeah.
who they were in the beginning of the 20th century. They were German philosophers, and they were, criticizing or questioning culture, enlightenment, all those times. And because I wanted to write about music, there were two guys. One was called Horkheimer, and the other one was called Theodor Adorno. And Adorno ended up being the philosopher I wrote about, because I took his general philosophies, then I took his music culture theories, a lot of criticism, and then I had to apply it to today. So to give you an example, Adorno, he was a fan of dodecaphonic music. He thought that jazz was like the pop of today. It was the jitterbugs, it was just noise, and it had to be embellished by neons around it because it didn't have the high quality music like Kurt Weill and all this. So it was interesting because very often these philosophers, you don't feel like they're connected to something you can grasp or understand in today's life. But so I wanted to test this theory. So then I went to interview people, and I just ended up really diving into the world of Adorno and the Frankfurter Schule. And it was really interesting. I forgot all about it.
No, you didn't, because you just told us about
That's what I remember.
But what was your thesis about? Was it about?
It was
music?
called The Day the Music Dies.
Oh, that's a great title.
And yeah, it was that question. Like, he said it 100 years ago that jazz was the end of music. And I could say that about other genres of music. And what would Adorno say about, all this trashy, poppy, playback, plastic, auto-tune music? So I tried to apply it, and I interviewed some people from the industry, behind the scenes. And it's true, like, ultimately, you have a product, you have talent, you have content. And then Adorno was saying that when you have to pack it around with marketing and neon lights, that was his thing, it shows that there's nothing inside, and which is these days very true. Everything is marketing. Nobody looks at the inside. But, I felt after my studies, it was time for me to go into the real world and work,
Yeah.
It's very interesting to be in the academical life. And again, my professor, Walter Reins, sociology, he's always on the news. He had sociology is interesting. I like studying people, anthropology, knowing history, knowing where you come from, the evolution of man. That was really interesting for me. Not the political science and understanding the Belgium and the nine and the countries and the laws. Not for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's yeah. While you were talking, I was thinking about it, because he said like jazz is noise. The funny thing is that's also the original meaning of jazz. Jazz was stop making that jazz, stop making that racket. So it was noise, and then it turned into an art form. Yeah.
He was a music elitist, let's say. And again, dodecaphonic music, I cannot listen to it. I tried. So again, it was interesting theory, and it was interesting to know these smart people, this whole school he was in, all these Frankfurter guys. Some of them did more on photography, but yeah, jazz was.
It's really funny. My grandfather, the other grandfather, he passed away. He hated everything that was, well, pop, rock, funk, whatever. He couldn't stand it. But the funny thing was he called it jazz. To him, it was all jazz, so like noise. And I remember the only thing he liked was like the very crappy German Musikantenstadel, so like the Schlager, the torch songs, yeah. It's a guy from 1923. Didn't have any cultural tastes. Belgian white guy. What do you expect? My other grandfather, who's still alive, he was very good musical taste. But so my grandfather, back in '85, you will remember it. I didn't, because I was a baby. But back in '85, we had a very famous Live Aid concert, and my parents were both working at the time. But of course, they wanted to watch it. Now this is prior to YouTube and DVDs, so they had to tape it off the air. So I remember my dad, he was like really pressing his father, please record everything. I want to watch Live Aid. So funniest thing ever. My grandfather he did his thing, he did his job. So it was like 5 tapes, Betamax tapes, by the way, 5 tapes, all Live Aids. And instead of just writing like Live Aid Part 1, Part 2, no, he wrote Jazz Part 1, Jazz Part...
No.
It's like there wasn't a single jazz artist on Live Aid. To him, it was just the noise. Wow. And years later, and he was still doing it. It was very... U2 came to Belgium. You will know because your dad did it or organized it. U2 came to Belgium. Day after, I went to my grandfather and he asked me, hey, Julian, have you seen those jazz men from Ireland? And I didn't know what he meant. Like, jazz men from Ireland? Yeah, you know, the guys... U2 was jazz in his ears, to his ears. So everything was jazz. But it's just, it's funny because the original meaning, as I said, is noise. So to him, it reflected the original meaning.
No, and also it's a matter of taste.
Of course.
There's so much also political things around it. And, it was the time, it was an era.
He grew up in the 40s. So what was the music of the time? I don't know. I wasn't there, but it wasn't jazz. It wasn't rock music.
I always say that the best years of music, and I think it's like, for me, every time I have a crush on a song and I put it on repeat once, between 71 and 76, I think. Yeah. Best years of music, for me.
I think Jan Leijers, the Belgian musician, the father of one of your best friends, I think he thinks that 1971 is the best year for music. And there's even a book. There's a book called 1971, The Best Year in Music. So apparently it's true. There's something to it. Yeah, it's, for sure. I'm more of an 80s guy. Of course, I like the 60s and I like the 70s. But to me, there's something about the 80s music that speaks to me. I don't know why, but...
See? Taste.
It's taste.
There's no right or wrong.
No, of course not. Well, there may be some wrong.
Unless it's jazz.
Unless it's Schlager music. No. I always say that everyone has the right to enjoy what they want. Music is for the people, the masses. True. And if you like your Franz Bauer, I'm not the one to correct you. If you like it, go ahead and buy.
Whatever works.
Sure, of course. I mean, we're not the ones to judge, and I can't play one note, so I'm really not in a position to play, to play or to judge. So we talked about music philosophy. Great. Now you talked also about what you do nowadays is helping artists who come to the country. You do everything for them. You're like you're like the first person they meet and probably the last person they meet. So what does that entail exactly? You also like you talk to the promoter, to the managers?
So I'm a freelance, and promoters in Israel, they come and go. But since 2016, I think we have Live Nation.
Okay.
And so they always hire me to do that. So luckily for me, I'm not part of the whole negotiation and the contract and the payment and the bookings. That's not me. From the moment that they confirm the show, then it comes to me, and then I start handling with tour management about the logistics of their visit.
But it's really everything.
In Israel, it's much more than anywhere else because, you're not really on the way, and very often it's the beginning or the end of a tour, and there's a lot of, logistic things of freight and equipment that needs to be taken care of, and a lot of, private visits because they want to bring their family and stay longer. So there's a lot of tourism involved in it.
Touristy stuff, yeah.
But it's very interesting. And yes, I don't go to the airport anymore. I mean, I have a team working for me and we split, depending on the size of the show, depending on how many people are coming, because sometimes it's over 100. And so, yeah, I'm in touch with them. They send me their rider. The rider is their requests of what they need backstage, and hotels, transportation, whatever is on the schedule. Most of the time, if they have time, they go to visit Jerusalem. Sometimes they go to the Dead Sea. I mean...
Oh, yeah, I want to see the Dead Sea one day.
Yeah, the lowest place on earth.
Yeah, and you can float in the water.
Yes, you can.
Of course, whenever we hear the word rider, there's always these wild stories. We all know the stories, the brown M&Ms, Van Halen. You do know the real story behind the brown M&Ms, right? Or you don't?
No.
Because apparently everyone hates Van Halen because it's like, they're very egotistical. They wanted brown M&Ms. Apparently it was on purpose because their show had a lot of pyrotechnics, and they knew that if there were brown M&Ms in their bowl, that the people did not read the rider closely enough.
That makes a lot
And
of
then
sense
they
to
were
me.
afraid that their pyrotechnics would go off. So it was like a sort of a security check for them. And that
It
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yes. Because very often, you send your rider, you don't always know where you're going, who's the promoter, is he reliable? And I had it very often. And Pharrell Williams also had a rider, and then there was a request for a framed picture of this and that. And I was like, what? And he said, we just wanted to make sure you read the rider. So yeah, it's true.
So but the next question is, and that's always fun, you don't have to name names because I don't want you to get in trouble, but what was like the
You think
funniest...
they're listening?
No, but I just don't want to get you in trouble because it's in English, so you never know where it ends up.
Okay.
If we did it in Dutch, no problem. No. But what was like the weirdest thing you ever saw on a rider?
I didn't know,
Okay.
but I'm going to tell you a secret. There are codes,
Okay.
which in DJs, in DJ life, there's like codes for certain drugs.
Oh, okay.
And so for many years, I've been providing the thing they asked for. I think it's called white socks.
But
I
it's
used
not,
to buy white socks,
but
and
it's
I
not
think
white
it
socks.
means something else. I had very often that kind of things.
White socks, yeah. Why
A
not?
chocolate is
Chocolate
mushrooms.
is also...
It's mushrooms.
But
But I didn't know.
But what if they
provided
want
chocolate.
real chocolate? What do they ask?
That's what I think. I don't know. They know that I'm a mom, so they don't come to me for the drugs. But yeah, so there's a few codes in riders that we learned with the years. And I had requests for condoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's safer than than drugs.
Yeah, but it's a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. No, apparently, I've never been to Los Angeles, but apparently the Maps to the Stars homes, it's also like a code name for cocaine. So people that sell Maps to the Stars, they're just dealers on the street. And there's very few people that actually want a real Map to the Stars homes, apparently.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Perhaps a fun thing to think about, what was the biggest show you ever put on and the smallest show you ever put on?
The park where we do most of the shows in Israel are over 60,000 people. And Bruno Mars, Maroon 5, a few other could have done 2 or 3.
They filled it completely.
Yeah. And the smallest show, I mean, maybe my brother when nobody came. No, I'm kidding.
Poor Nathan.
My smallest show, I did something for the Eurovision once, but it wasn't really a show for the Dutch guy. When the Eurovision was in Israel, Duncan, he won that year.
Yeah, true.
He did a very tiny press thing, and they asked me to find the location, and I found something crazy, but it was a very good thing. It was like a music venue, but in the middle of the area of the garages, and they were like, what is this? And like the ambassadors came in the press.
It's like the garden Trump thing. You remember that story?
No.
You know, when Trump was talking about the fraudulent election of Joe Biden, they booked the wrong venue. And so apparently it was in front of like a garden center, and it was like Rudy Giuliani standing there. It's like the most embarrassing thing ever. You should look it up online. Okay. All the journalists standing in front of the garden center instead of the real fancy hotel that they think they were renting. It's
cool.
Like
I like that.
No, but tell me. So Duncan was
that
like
was
the smallest.
Really small, but it wasn't really a concert for an audience.
Okay.
You just want to have at least 20, 50, 100 people at your show.
Yeah, I don't think it's not a question of let's say capacity or whatever quality. Sometimes an artist just wants a small venue, an intimate show.
What's crazy to me is that I had a few shows that were at stadiums, but they sounded as if it was just me and him.
That's great.
Art Garfunkel played at a stadium, like
wow.
Art Garfunkel.
Yeah.
And everybody felt like it was just him and them. Just so that when the voice is so like angelic, you don't even realize you're in a stadium. So it could be very intimate.
I saw Leonard Cohen in Vorst, which is like a horrible venue, especially sound wise.
Yeah.
But it still felt intimate because it was he made it his own, and he provided, and he made the funny. Perhaps he did it everywhere, but he said like, I didn't come all the way to Brussels just to fool
please you. To fool you, yes, of course.
Did he do it in every venue?
Of course.
Yeah. But we thought he did it for us. So.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm very happy that I saw him once. I only saw him once, but luckily I did before he passed away.
Exactly. No FOMO.
I have a lot of FOMO because I missed a lot of I missed a lot of great. I had tickets for the last Michael Jackson thing. I had tickets for the first show in London, the first show, and then he passed away like 10 days before the first show. And I always said, couldn't he have passed away like after the first show? And it's like, damn. Did you know I spent like an hour in front of the computer? Of course, perhaps you didn't have to do that if you with your dad, but I had to spend like an hour in front of the computer. It was like very stressy, and of course you had to like the English.
I don't go to shows. I hate going to shows.
You went to a few shows, right?
No, I work.
You never?
I rarely go to a show just for fun.
But you saw a few Cohen gigs, right?
67. I counted.
Okay.
And it was a long show. It had a break in the middle.
Yeah.
No, I still listen to him all the time. But just if you tell me now I have tickets, like last year we got free tickets for Coldplay here.
You didn't go?
No. Neither did I go to U2 or I don't go to shows. Who wants to stand in line and stand with another thousands people sweating on you? No. I'd rather work behind the scenes.
I rarely go to shows because I think it's expensive and indeed sweaty. But I got tickets for Bruce Springsteen this year because it's my biggest musical hero. I saw him last year and I was very happy that he came back so soon because normally it takes like 6 or 7 years in between Belgian visits. But now apparently he liked it last year, so he's coming back this year in July in Werchter. But of course my wife is having her second kid on the 6th of July. So I really hope that either the baby comes too late or if Springsteen is still now. I don't know. Of course, I'll have to be at the birth, so I'll probably miss Springsteen. But
you don't know. Everything's possible.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Have you ever met Bruce Springsteen?
No.
No. I just hope, of course.
Did you watch the We Are the World documentary?
I haven't. It's on my watch list.
So good.
But
so good.
I did watch also recent the Wham documentary. Did you watch that?
I watched all the.
I loved it. The Wham documentary.
Yorgos.
Love
it.
Yeah, I was actually touched at the end. And Andrew Ridgeley, the surviving.
Actually, I was never a fan of George Michael.
No.
But he's my number 2 in covers. He didn't do that many.
Oh yeah,
but when he did,
he could improve on a song.
When he did the Freddie Mercury tribute.
Oh.
You know, his boyfriend just died of AIDS
Anselmo,
the day before or something.
Yeah.
The way he did.
I think he was the only one who could at least emulate Freddie Mercury.
Wow.
I won't say better or top him, but emulate. Yeah. And of course, his Stevie Wonder Ass cover with Mary J. Blige. That's an amazing cover.
There's another Stevie Wonder cover.
Yeah.
It's called They Won't Go When I Go.
That I don't know.
Wow. You listen to both and you tell me.
Okay. No, I'm quite the George Michael fan. I've never seen him either, sadly. No, but I was touched at the end of the Wham documentary because Andrew is saying like we were never meant to be like a middle-aged band. Wham was never going to be middle-aged. We were always like fun. And he said, of course they asked him, wasn't it weird that in '86 he just said, I'm going to go solo. And then of course he had little to no career left. And Andrew just said, we all wake up in the middle of our dreams. Sometimes we realize it's not there. And I was like, wow, that's really profound, actually. It's
No, and then you see that some people, it's their vocation to sacrifice everything for their career. And Andrew was fed up. He wanted to have a secret, normal life. And that's what he did.
But it was also beautiful that he realized that he needed to take a step back in order to let George Michael blossom in his solo career. And that's very... Not a lot of people would do that. That's a big ego thing to set aside, to say, like, I'm going to give up my music career because my buddy, my best friend, wants to do it on his own. That's really cool, actually, of him to do that. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. He recognized that he was the lesser of two songwriters, and he said, go ahead, do it on your own. Okay, Marilyn, we're gonna close off because I always try to do it like an hour because I know people...
We spoke for an hour?
Yes, it's
really?
59 minutes. No, wow. I know that most people like to listen to podcasts is like an hour because it's some do it during their exercise or their fitness or whatever, and then an hour is like a great moment to stop. But let's just close off with one thing. I once saw Adam Cohen, the son of Leonard Cohen, in the Ancienne Belgique in Brussels. He was the opening act for Rufus Wainwright, who we also mentioned. And I think I've never laughed harder at a thing Adam Cohen said. I mean,
I'm the son of the famous Canadian singer Celine Dion.
Yeah. You know this. Sorry.
He did that joke all the time.
But what's the? I'm looking for the word. What's it called?
Jewish humor?
No, no, of course, no. I mean the things musicians say in between.
Ah, I don't know
What
how
is
you
it?
call that.
I'm thinking of liner notes, but that's the words in a booklet of a CD.
I
Well,
didn't know that had a name.
in Dutch, it's bindteksten. So it's like the
Oh,
things you
yeah.
say in between songs to engage or
A
entertain the audience.
text. No,
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
kidding.
There is something, but if people know, do answer in the comments. No, but I think Adam Cohen was very, or is a very funny guy. He sort of acknowledges that he's the son of, and he'll always be the son of.
What a crazy choice. We
Yeah.
spoke about it. I was very close to him. I brought him to Israel. Nobody wanted to buy tickets for his show. He was ready to do any hallelujah of his dad, and he can do it. And it was terrible. And I was like, being a musician is tough. Being a successful musician is impossible. Being the son of Leonard and trying to, compete with him to do the same line, that's hell. And it's hell right now because there's a thing with rights and suing and I don't know what, but he's very talented. And yeah, the humor.
Yeah, I think because we spoke about the rare cover that's better than the original. I think another fun theoretical list that you can compose is like which sons of famous fathers have actually eclipsed their father in popularity. It's a very short list.
I don't know.
I think there's Michael Douglas because a lot of younger people don't know Kirk Douglas
Oh,
anymore.
in his success. Okay.
Yeah, I mean like acclaim or success, whatever.
In music?
In music, it's very hard. I can't think of a single example, I think.
I know many kids of musicians, very often two, that had careers, but I don't think I can name, or not at least right now, somebody who like outdated the success of his
It's
parent.
very hard.
Maybe Nathan? No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
In Belgium, we have like, but also not music. Matthias Schoenaerts, he's more famous than Julien Schoenaerts right now. The younger generation doesn't know Julien anymore. But that's two movie examples.
I think in acting, it's more common, and also like Paul McCartney and Stella McCartney, you have very much talents that go, but if it goes in the same line as musicians, no.
Now I really want to we should at least find one example. Come on, who's a famous musician who had more success than his dad?
No, there are many. It's very often that I discover what's his name, Marcus King. It's a musician I really love.
I don't know.
His father was a musician, but it doesn't mean Good question.
Yeah, if anyone knows, chime in the comments. I have no idea if there's because just off the top of our heads, like all the famous, like the really famous, Bruce Springsteen, David Bowie, Paul McCartney, their kids
Billy Joel has a daughter called Alexa Ray.
She's really good,
Very
but she's
cute,
not. She
but
hasn't.
she's not Billy Joel. James Taylor, what's his
Who's
name?
his
Ben
son?
Taylor.
Ah, I
Very
didn't even
cute,
know.
and it's James Taylor and Carly Simon, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Carly Simon was.
And then you have, no, but she's
Did you
not a
find
musician. Aerosmith, Liv Tyler, but
True.
she's not a.
No,
she's not a singer.
She's not a singer.
We have to keep looking.
I'm really. I'm sure we're gonna find someone, but right now we won't. So.
I see Rod Stewart behind us. He has a daughter,
Yeah,
Kimberly.
but not very.
Phil Collins, Lily Collins, but again, not in music.
Acting, true.
No, we'll keep thinking.
Marlyn, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was very fun, and you had some great stories. I think we can talk for more than this, but it's as I said, I'd like to keep it around the 1 hour mark. I wish you a lot of success in your further career.
Thank you very much.
I think perhaps we can close off with one anecdote. Your dad once came to my school to give a sort of lecture about music promotion, etc. And of course, he has a lot of fun stories because a career full of stories. And apparently, the very first American show he ever did, American artist he invited to Belgium was Tina Turner. That's what he said. And back then, she only drank Diet Coke. But you couldn't get Diet Coke in Belgium. It was the early 70s. No Diet Coke at all.
He faked it?
Do you know what he did?
No.
He went, a very smart man actually. That's why, of course, he had the success he had. He went to an American army base and they had import Diet Coke. So he went by himself. He went by himself. He drove to the airbase. He said, I need Coke tonight for Tina Turner. And he got it. And that's and I remember
It
someone.
says it all.
Yeah, it really says all.
Did you
And
read his book, by the way?
no, I didn't. Sorry,
You
I
have to
should.
read Boogie Business.
Boogie Business. That's
It's
a great
full of
title.
fun stories, but it's also full of tragedy and drama. But it's very, it's like a culture. You know, it's very encouraging and inspiring, really.
Yeah, it's a great guy, your dad. Marlyn,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Thank you for being a guest, my very first English language guest.
Yes, we're going viral.
We're going global with
international.
Clever Girls.
Yes.
And
Thanks for
of
having
course
me.
have a safe journey back to Tel Aviv. And of course, always welcome in Belgium whenever the weather's not too great and the people are not too boring.
Yes.
Feel free to come back to Belgium.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Shalom.